All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's YouTube video. It is the 3rd of March. Welcome to the second trading day of the month. Pretty exciting, but yeah, hopefully we'll be able to do good this round. And yeah, let's just keep up the good work and keep pushing forward like we always do. Never give up. But essentially, essentially today was pretty good on market price action coming into pre-market, right? So good drawn liquidity. We had a lot of like low resistance, and I'll talk more about that. Talk more about that when we get into the charts. But overall narrative, overall direction was very clear. So yeah, without further ado, let's just get right into it. All right. So essentially, what we got going into the day, what was my bias, right? I was leaning a little bit more bearish because if you can see here, we ended up displacing heavily bearish, right? We had a lot of like displacement lower. But one thing I also wanted you to know is that we ended up displacing and invalidating this 4-hour gap. Very important. Just a really good indicator that, hey, what's the most recent price action of what we've been doing? Well, we ended up invalidating this 4-hour gap. Then what do we do on the hourly? Just to kind of have further confirmation. Well, recent price action, we ended up sweeping into this hourly gap, and then we started displacing lower, right? And just 2 seconds. So yeah, from here, right, you can see that we ended up sweeping inside this hourly gap. We left this intermediate high, this 5-minute intermediate high, and then a 15-minute unfilled gap above. One more thing is that we left this hourly gap that's untapped into right here. In my head, if we end up sweeping into that gap, I wouldn't be opposed to still taking shorts because it is the more premium, higher probability gap. So very good area to look for shorts with. But yeah, so continuing further, right, and not necessarily meaning that I have to see it get tapped into. It's just that if it does, probably be a good reason to look for shorts. But anyways, leading into market open, and actually let me just do this really quick. There we go. Okay, yeah, leading into market open, I had a lot of like scenarios in my head. Also, ES at the same time has very similar behavior. So we're not exactly trending anywhere. We're not exactly too high or too low or whatever. We're kind of somewhat in the same range. There's some like little discrepancies, but overall, nothing too drastic enough for me to kind of like be confused about price action. So anyways, let's get right into it. So two scenarios. If I'm bullish, I want to end up sweeping lower, probably getting a mech long towards this gap and then creating that like 5-minute condition, 15-minute condition if it presents itself, to see if we actually want to go higher or just kind of like have a little bit of a little bit of a retracement, more to say. But yeah, that's kind of my narrative. If we want to be bullish, we want to end up sweeping out this, which is also a 15-minute intermediate low. Both of these guys, right? So good draw on liquidity for both. But let's say I want to be bearish, which is the wait. What happened to me? What? Okay, sorry, I don't know what that was. Um, to reiterate, what do I want to see happen? Right, I want to see us take this high and then continuation lower, and then from there, right, what do I want to see? I don't know, something, right, towards these accumulation zone lows. We could also hit the sell side liquidity down here, perfect enough as it is. So yeah, not too picky, but from there, let's see what happens at market open, right? So boom, we end up sweeping to this hourly intermediate and 5-minute intermediate. And then what do I want to see from there immediately? Well, do we have a fair value gap or inversion, right? Yeah, we do. We have a 1-minute, but and it ended up being closed through. But what should I notice here? Are we in the highest time frame gap? No, we're not. We already have a 2-minute gap right here. But does price end up sweeping into this? I mean, yeah, it does, right? But does it close below? No, it doesn't invalidate it. And eventually, what do we do from there? We end up sweeping out this again. We have a resweep. Perfect. What do we have here? Well, we have these 2-minute gaps open up. So I just kind of created that conversion point right here. By this point in time, I was looking for inversion, right? One thing I did note is that one thing I didn't really like was that we didn't sweep out this 15-minute premium right here. But why was I willing to let it slide, right? Why was I saying we don't really need it? But if it did happen, it would be nice. It would be higher probability. But why don't I need it to enter a trade? Well, simply put, we ended up already sweeping into another 15-minute, right, unfilled gap, which was also a 5-minute intermediate high. So adding these confluences together, I don't necessarily need that 15-minute to get taken out. ES also hasn't taken it out. So it's not like we have an SMT, which would also be pretty good too. But overall, if a setup presents itself and I really like it, but it didn't do a specific action, it doesn't have to be 100% perfect. If I like the trade, if I like how we're bouncing off of these gaps, which I do in this situation, right? Then I want to be looking for some kind of reason to enter, right? I don't want to be like hesitating out of I don't want to be hesitating out of a trade because one single thing did not work out when all these other things did. But if it was a very what's the word? Like it like obvious reason for why price didn't work out, right? Then I would be like concerned, right? Because if we didn't sweep into like that 15-minute gap, also at 5, then I probably more than likely would not have entered, right? So that kind of narrative in itself is a good reason for why I decided to kind of like basically enter. So yeah. And then from there, this is a trade that I ended up taking, right? So we end up closing below here. NQ, MNQ, sorry, closed up here. So we ended up having a little bit of a late entry. And the way I'd like to do things is I chart on NQ and I execute on MNQ, right? For lower contract size, better control of my partials and stuff like that if I ever wanted to take it. But all in all, very good trade. Nothing really wrong that I didn't like about it besides that 15-minute untapped above. But from there, what do we end up doing? Trading lower, but then we end up trading higher. I should have gone break even here. Why? So there's reasons why I didn't. One reason why I didn't go break even here. I just kind of got in late, and then price moved immediately higher, so I didn't really have a chance of entering break even. But why did I even want to go break even here? Well, look at where ES is. We've already taken out that accumulation zone low. Why is this our target? Well, also, what is an accumulation zone low? AZL. Accumulation zone low refers to like PDI. So we have an accumulation right here. We have a manipulation up here that swept into multiple like PDAs, liquidity pools. So intermediate high, intermediate low, 15-minute gap, right? And then what do we get from there? We get a distribution lower, right? Perfect, 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 and perfect. So that's kind of what I mean by accumulation zone low. This is leaving a good target, good draw on liquidity for price to pull back to. And yeah, and then what did ES do? We already swept it out by the time we entered. So I should have gone break even there. I didn't, but it's fine because we ended up getting back into break even, and then I ended up like closing break even, and then we got break even right here. So I ended up sweeping down here. It got break even, and then it went up a little bit before it closed below, and I got break even at that point. It is what it is, whatever. I don't honestly care. And then yeah, eventually price came to our TP, as you can see here, right? So yeah, oh my gosh, yep, price went to TP. Really sucks, but in my head, this was a very valid play because we had a massive SMT eventually, right? If I wasn't break even at this point, I definitely would have been break even when ES hit this sell side. And I'm sorry, I should have said that before. ES, right? During this trade, right, we were around here at this level, right? We were around this level when ES already hit this sell side liquidity, right? So in my head, and we haven't even hit this sell side yet at all. And that creates a massive SMT, right, with ES, as you can see here, right? Massive SMT with ES. So by this point in time, if I wasn't already like break even, then I wouldn't have entered the trade in the first place. Or not wouldn't have traded, but like I would have already been break even by this point in time. And I would have gotten stomped out by this point in time. And you know what? It is what it is. Valid reason to want to be able to take this trade. and not hesitate, right? I'd rather take the trade, end with this result, than hesitate on the trade and then figure out that like, hey, price would have came to my TP or break even. I have problems with my executions, and so by forcing myself to enter trades more often than not, yeah, I lose more money. Yeah, whatever. But at the same time, I'm always practicing the idea of entering on good and valid trades that make sense. So in a way, if I do lose, there's a reason for it. If I do win, there's a reason for it. So I'm not completely pulling trades out of my ass, basically. So yeah, and with that, that kind of concludes the trading recap. But I want to show you guys my journal really quick before we leave. Right here. So this is my journal, and I'm just gonna scroll through it. But as you can see here, everything is kind of the same. You can review whatever. Break even. I lost some fees with it. Here's what it is. Right. Any more bearish narrative overall. And yeah, I mean overall pretty good trade. I was in a way still looking for an entry because in my head, let's say here, right? So we were here, right? I wanted to see price sweep up here. Oh shoot, sorry. There we go. Um, pretend whatever that didn't happen. But I wanted to see if there was another opportunity on the 5 minute. So let's say I wanted to see price sweep into this 15, actually fill out that gap, right? Why would this not be valid, right, in this situation? Well, in my head, I'm thinking, why would price go up there to then sweep out towards a drawn liquidity that has already been taken out, right? Because by this point in time, ES already took out a lot of our drawn liquidity. Like literally sell side liquidity was already taken out. I don't really want to go anywhere lower than that. And especially if we're moving higher, right? We do have a lot of good drawn liquidity above us. So realistically, with this unfilled five, especially with relative equal highs, that's very nice for longs. I want to target that level. I don't want to react off of that level in that situation, right? But there really isn't anything for us to react off of down here, even further down here with ES, with SMTs, etc. So like price action after that trade has honestly just been really bad. And so I don't know if I actually really wanted to take an entry off of that level. And right now, right, especially here, we did see price react right on NQ, right? We did see that happen, but even if it's a 15-minute intermediate low, um, I didn't really like what I saw, so I didn't really want to take it per chance. But yeah, I mean overall, it is what it is. There probably was a long entry over here, but by this point in time, I didn't really want to enter on anything anymore, especially after like this whole sell side buy side like nonsense. So yeah, but honestly, practice trading would have been a good valid entry. But yeah, peace.